Hey, I'm TJ Casning. I lead Ambassador Group, and I've witnessed somewhere around 500 resignations, some sweet and some spicy. And it feels like 50% are hard in some way. It's easy for resignations to be an afterthought since we give so much energy to getting the offer. And I want to help you have the best resignation experience you can with two helps. First, I'd like to help you with strategy to preserve and even enhance your relationships by keeping the big picture in mind through the resignation process. You're going to resign with professionalism and class. It will be impressive. And second, I want to help you with some tactics. So first, on the strategy, I want to emphasize the value of great relationships with people, great industry relationships. And when you resign, to show absolute respect and specific gratitude to your teammates, to your boss, to the company. And I say this with the recognition of you're resigning, you're leaving, maybe for a particular reason that you're unhappy about. And the reason why I'm suggesting to lean so far into respect and specific gratitude is two reasons. One is this really helps you preserve strong industry relationships. And, you know, as big as the world is, it's also a small world. And those people may have opportunities to work with you in the future, and their impression or perspective of you matters. And so it's better for them to have a positive impression of you. So showing that respect and specific gratitude will reflect well on you. And when I say specific gratitude, I mean cite specific reasons why people helped you or where they helped you and how it benefited you in your resignation. Show as much grace and appreciation for the people that you worked with as possible. And also refrain from criticism. And the reason I say this is, you know, there may be a very specific reason why you are resigning, and you might not be happy. But having seen this many resignations, I can tell you many times when I've heard of this criticism being shared, it doesn't go over well. And part of this is just the occasion, right? So the boss came into work probably not expecting a resignation in some sense. And when you turn that in, they are going to panic, right? Because they've got work underway that they need you to do. And that 2 weeks might be a little bit of a crunch time to transition all that work, or they may not have somebody to transition that work to. That's their problem. So there's a little bit of panic there. There's a bit of fear. And if you then start telling them your criticisms of why you're resigning, oftentimes just human nature doesn't respond well. It doesn't hear it. And so there may be a time down the road where you could share that criticism or perhaps not. But I'd recommend keeping your criticism to yourself. I'd also recommend being very clear with yourself in your decision to resign. And what that means is, what are you accomplishing in your life? And I'm not saying you need to share these justifications with the people that you're resigning from, but be clear in your own mind, because when you go into this resignation, something is going to happen between two poles on a spectrum. On one side, you're going to get walked to the door. This is policy in a lot of companies. It's not personal. It's just how things work. And nonetheless, it is jarring, right? If you've worked for an organization for quite a while, got strong relationships, getting walked to the door can feel disrespectful, can feel emotional. And on the other side of the spectrum, you've got absolute flattery, manipulation, and companies doing whatever they need to do to prevent you from resigning on this timeline, because it is going to cost them an unacceptable amount. And so it's worth it for them to pour on the love to keep you around. And so it's so important to just remember why you're resigning. Why did you go to interview? What issues? How are you trying to improve your life? What are you looking forward to in this new job? Because if you don't keep that clear, then your resolve or your confidence in your resignation can be shaken and can be taken advantage of. And so for this reason, I recommend writing a letter of resignation that really models the gratitude, respect, and professionalism that you would show in a verbal conversation. Share that your reasons are personal and about improving your life. You don't need to define all those things. You don't need to tell them where you're going. But this is about improving your life, and that is a hard thing for anybody to counter and say, well, you shouldn't do that, right? These are personal to you. And then be prepared for that reaction. So you may have seen how they handle other resignations. Maybe prepare yourself accordingly. But usually it's somewhere between being walked to the door or intense flattery and manipulation. And what I hope for you is that they're happy for you. You've done great work. You've got great relationships. They're disappointed, but they understand. They handle it professionally, and it's a good experience. And you get to keep those relationships and even have those relationships strengthened by their appreciation for your professionalism in the resignation. And if you have an opportunity to work together in the future, you can take that and hold your head high. One last thing is to note is in the resignation process, we get to the counteroffer. And first off, as a recruiter, I'm not going to tell you that all counteroffers are bad and that you should categorically not accept a counteroffer. What I will say is I have not seen a counteroffer situation play out into a long-term relationship. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in my experience, it's rare. And most often counteroffers are bandages or band-aids, if not placebos, to resolve the situation in the company's favor, to change the timing of your resignation till they can usher you out on timing that is acceptable to them. So like I said, I can't say it's always a bad idea. I think there are situations where a counteroffer is acceptable to accept. But the number, in my experience, is high enough to generally advise against it. Personally, I've seen very few, result in good relationships. Plus, I will also say it will disappoint your prospective employer. If they've negotiated and interviewed with you in good faith, they've spent good time with you, they may potentially resent how you used their time and goodwill to leverage the counteroffer. Not necessarily that was your intention, but you have to understand from their perspective, they've invested a bunch of team time. They're hoping that you're their person, and that's going to be pretty disappointing to them. So try to avoid that situation just by being clear, right? Do all your due diligence in the interview process, in the offer negotiation, and be operating with conviction when you go into the negotiation. Lots of people waffle at this stage when they have to give somebody else bad news. And, the reason you started interviewing, the reason you accepted the offer should be clear in your head as you prepare to resign. I would also note, do not resign until you have an offer letter signed, you have a start date, and this team is going to be ready for you to join. It's rare. It's very inadvisable to companies, but I have seen it happen where a company will hire somebody ostensibly, and then, they resign, and then, something happens with the job, right? So it's a rare situation, but it's something to be mindful of. Make sure your landing pad is clear and ready for you, before you initiate the resignation. So I appreciate that you've given me the opportunity to help you. As always, I'd love to answer your questions and hear your feedback. You can email me at tj@ambassadorgroup.com. Thanks so much.